Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Are you a high net worth individual or are you aspiring to be a high net worth individual? Well, what qualifies as a high net worth individual? There really isn't a strict definition. The most official one we can use is the one offered up by the SEC. The SEC defines a high net worth individual as someone who has a net worth of at least $1.5 million or $750,000 in liquid or investable assets. Now, predominantly this terminology is really used in the financial services industry, and a more loose-fitting definition that they tend to use in the financial service industry for an individual or a household to be considered high net worth, they tend to go with $1 million in investable assets. Just a fun fact, there are actually two categories higher than a high net worth individual. First, you have a very high net worth individual, those having liquid or investable assets of $5 to $30 million, and then an ultra high net worth individual, those having liquid assets in excess of $30 million. It feels crazy to even say $30 million. It's so much money, but honestly, that doesn't even crack the Forbes 500 list. To crack the Forbes 500 list, you have to have at least $1 billion. So the emphasis here really is on the liquid portion of one's net worth. Think checking accounts, savings accounts, brokerage accounts, money market accounts, retirement accounts, things like that. Things that would not be included here would be real estate, your primary residence, or any other land you may hold, simply because it's not easily converted into cash. Now, does that mean that those items don't factor into your overall net worth? Of course it doesn't. If you own them, if you have equity in them, they have value, they are assets, they are a part of your net worth. But just remember that this terminology is really used in the financial sector, so by financial advisors, and what they really focus on is your investable assets. Having a substantial sum like this to invest does make you special in the eyes of the financial community. You might get extra special attention from banks or from financial advisors or financial institutions as a whole. You might be labeled as a private client, have a special telephone number that you can use even after hours or on weekends when traditionally these institutions are closed. You might get access to special funds, think hedge funds, and invites to private events. Why? Because banks and financial institutions want your business. Most places like this charge a fee for assets under management, or AUM. Now, this fee is typically around 1%. So let's say you have $1 million invested with your financial pro. That means if they charge a 1% fee for assets under management, you're going to pay $10,000 a year. Keep in mind that this fee is charged on top of any expense ratios for the funds that you're invested in. Those funds have their own expense ratios, and then your advisor will have his own fee that comes in on top of that. And also important to note, no matter how the market performs, your advisor still gets their fees. Market goes up, they get their fee. Market goes down, they still get their fee. So in a year like this, where the market has gone down 15 or 20%, they still get their fee. Is it worth it? Well, it depends on your situation. If your pro keeps you from making tax blunders or saves you from money mistakes that would have otherwise cost you 5 or 6 figure sums, absolutely. But what if you feel like you are financially savvy enough and knowledgeable enough to manage your own portfolio? Then it's probably not worth it. If you are going the DIY approach, just know that you always have the option to meet with a financial advisor who charges an hourly rate rather than a percentage of assets under management. This can be really good anytime you need a sounding board, a second opinion, or anytime you're thinking of making some significant changes that you want that extra opinion on. This would likely cost you a couple $100, maybe $1,000, but the option is there. And just know, anytime you have significant assets, there will always be people who want your business. Now, the typical person who achieves millionaire status does so in their 50s. And of course, there are people who hit this benchmark before or people who hit it after, but that's the average. I think it should be entirely possible to be seen as a high net worth individual without having a 7-figure sum of investments, based entirely on the stage of life you're at. Because sure, it can be easy to have this sum by the time you're 50 or 60. At that point, you have 3 or 4 decades of working, investing, and saving years under your belt. But it's harder for one to hit it at, say, 30 when you've only been working for a decade. So what if we were to adjust this definition a little bit of a high net worth individual or household and change it based on age? What would that look like? Well, it's estimated that about 10% of the US population meets the benchmark of a high net worth individual or high net worth household. So what if we looked at the top 10% of each age bracket based on net worth? We could then presumably say that the top 10% would be considered high net worth households. Remember, these numbers would not include the value of real estate or primary residence. And also keep in mind that none of these numbers are based off any official metric for a high net worth individual or household. I took some artistic liberty for the sake of the financially savvy individuals who want to reach the high net worth status. Perhaps this can serve as milestones along the way to achieve if being a high net worth person is a goal of yours. I always find that breaking big goals down into more manageable pieces with benchmarks along the way is a bit more fun. Around your 30th birthday, you'd need to be crossing that 6-figure mark. Somewhere around 40, you'd need to be hitting $500,000. And by the time you're in your 45 to 49 year range, you'd need to be hitting that millionaire status in order to be considered high net worth. In fact, by the time you hit your mid-50s, that benchmark moves to $2 million. Odds are, if you're sitting around watching finance videos on YouTube, you're well on your way, or perhaps you already are a high net worth individual. And even though the label high net worth individual exists, for those that have even $1 million invested, most of them don't feel incredibly rich. Instead, they're still concerned about rising costs, covering a 30 or a 40-year retirement, helping their kids out with finances, and covering medical expenses. Most of them feel just like average, everyday people. They're just like the ones featured in The Millionaire Next Door. When I think about a millionaire, I always think back to the quote from Jim Rohn. It was something along the lines of, don't set your goal to become a millionaire for the dollar amount you'll have once you get there, but rather because of the person you have to become in order to achieve that goal. I know that's not the exact quote. I will find it and I'll actually put it on the screen, but I thought that that quote had such a good sentiment. It is more important who you become along the way to reaching your goals rather than just hitting the goal. And while those with $1 million invested may not feel incredibly rich, it still is quite an achievement and it does deserve a pat on the back. And if you are someone striving to hit this goal, here are some tips that can help you out along the way. Track your spending. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Personal finance starts with knowing what your money is doing. You have to know how much is coming in each month and how much is going out. And I know it seems like common sense and something I shouldn't have to say, but then you see headlines like this one. 50% of Americans don't know how much they're spending on reoccurring payments. Think subscription services. Further, 71% said they probably waste over $50 a month in recurring subscriptions they don't need or use anymore. And the average consumer has 12 subscriptions. Of course, all of this doesn't come down to subscriptions. It applies to all expenses and all income sources. You have to know what is happening with your money. So it doesn't matter how you track, get an app, get an Excel spreadsheet, any other method of your choosing, just get a reliable method to track your expenses and track what your money is doing. You have to know what is going on. Set a budget. Once you know what is happening with your money, you want to be proactive and assign tasks to your dollars. Rather than having your budget be set by chance, you want it to be set with purpose. What percent are you dedicating to housing, to transportation, to discretionary activities, to savings and investments? I am a huge fan of actually writing this down. And then periodically you want to come back and check, because over time your income and your expenses can drift. You want to make sure your dollars are going where you want them to. Because you don't want to start out at, say, 25, saving $100 a week, and then by the time you're 35, still be saving and investing that same $100 when your income has doubled. Make sure you check in with your budget periodically to make sure your dollars are doing what you want them to do. I love the set it and forget it approach, but you don't want to totally forget it. Occasionally you do want to check back and be like, okay, everything still looks good. Okay, now I can put it out of my mind for the next several months. Savings and investments. Now, I know this is a line item in the budget, but it does deserve its own category. It's that important. And I'm gonna make a quick note here. I know I get roasted all the time for using the word savings and investing interchangeably. I know they are totally different things, but when I say that I am saving, I mean I'm investing. I've done that for as long as I can possibly remember, because once I put money into investments, I'm not gonna touch it. ever. So to me, that is saving, but I am trying to get better at using the appropriate word at the appropriate time so I stop getting roasted in the comments. Now, without a doubt, if you want to earn the right to be called a high net worth individual, you're going to have to be investing a sizable percentage of your income. The typical American has a savings rate of about 7 to 10%, but that's not going to cut it if you want to have a 7-figure investable sum. You're going to have to be at least saving and investing 20 to 25% of your income. But if you want to achieve this high net worth status, or if you want to achieve 7-figure status in your 30s or your 40s, you're going to have to save even more. You might have to save 40 or 50% of your income. Just remember, the longer your time horizon, the lesser percentage you can save. The shorter your time horizon, the greater the percentage you have to save. Utilize the accounts available to you. If you have pre-tax retirement accounts like a 401k or an HSA available to you, you want to be investing in them and contribute up to the max if you can. This will help to reduce your overall taxable income. Then you want to be utilizing a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA if your income exceeds the Roth limits. And if you do use a traditional IRA, just know that you can do a conversion to a Roth known as a backdoor Roth. Make sure to capture any employer match available to you because, hello, free money, we don't want to turn that down, but you want to make sure to utilize these tax-advantaged accounts because once your money goes into a tax-advantaged account, it gets to grow completely tax-free. This maximizes your money's growth potential. Boost your income. Knowing what your money is doing is great. Investing a sizable percentage of your income is fantastic and an absolute must if you want to reach your goals. But you also have to focus on maximizing your earning potential because the higher your income, the easier it is to save a sizable percentage of it while also enjoying your hard work and being able to spend a little bit more enjoying the here and now. Maybe that means attaining new certifications, or maybe it means applying to new positions, but just know that reaching your financial goals is easier with a bigger shovel. Of course, you can still achieve high net worth status on a modest income. It just might take longer or it might require more frugality. Remember, there is no one approach and there is no right approach. And finally, stay the course. Achieving high net worth status will take many years, if not many decades. There will be ups and downs, and through it all, you just have to put your head down and stick to the plan. Keep dollar cost averaging no matter what the market is doing, because more than likely, your ride to high net worth individual status will look anything but smooth. What do you guys think? Are you aiming to be a high net worth individual or have a high net worth household? Let me know in the comments down below. What's your plan? I'd love to hear about it. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. Hope you have a good one. Bye. But the worth individual, or you are, best against that $1 million thing. It never goes away. Floating around the financial services sector. Bye, buddy. I love you. Clearly, I was being too loud for him. Can't hear out of my ear today. Worth individual, those having in savings, checking, is the financial community. Depends on your situation. If your advisor finds a way to save you, charge a 1% S. And of course, there are people who pay. Does my voice sound normal? Because I have a cold and I don't think it sounds normal. I can't hear out of this ear, so we're kind of like flying blind today. I think it should be age of life you're in. Like the claw going, I don't even know. I think it should be entirely individual. I think it should be I don't like that sentence at all. I'm not gonna say it. Maybe we should adjust this. Oh, this is so frustrating. Based on the individual. Can I please? Oh my gosh, I can't do this. What is happening with your money? So have to know. Want to use it's your dollars. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I just sat on my foot wrong. Knowing what your money is doing is